at the environment in Kenya. Okay? Each and every time. Yes. Because remember, you want to be able to exploit them separately. So if you bunch them up, you have to then go and argue your case about why you want to extract. So I would advise, because I also might get to the point where I've written a song, then I feel my voice is not perfect, and I give it to Shinde here. So that means it's not the sound recording. She will have her own sound recording using my musical work. Okay? All right.
And just another question. Someone asked about DJ Shiti. I don't know if that one was tackled. Umetosheka? Okay.
Yeah.
For example, oh, that's loud. Yeah, for example, Will Broder, you mentioned Will Broder. Will Broder, I assume, belongs to the Papa Shirandula show. Can she, independent of the show, make decisions using Will Broder to make money?
I think the first comment I could say on that is you look at the contracts. June will comment further on this. We spoke about the contracts you signed. If you signed a work for hire, anything you do belongs to the production. So it goes back to what you signed yourself to. The fact that it's successful does not give you more rights, because also it could have been a failure. It doesn't mean that producer will come and demand money from you. So we can see it both ways. So query the contract you are getting into, whether it's something you did as a contract, work for hire, or it's something you gave rights for them to use in a certain show. So if they use it in another way or another place, then you can actually get more. But I think she'll elaborate further. But just a quick other point that might also help Gladwell, and that is a bit different also from the fact of registration. You see, what you're registering with Kekobo is to have a record that you registered your work and paid 1,000 for this and the other. But the idea is that it's registered. There are cheaper ways, which are also acceptable because the Kenya Information and Communications Act recognizes electronic document. You can email yourself the script and save it, So you have it emailed to yourself or post a letter to you. People used to post themselves a letter because the post office would stamp and they keep it. And all these are acceptable ways. Certainly, Kekobo adds a third layer of actually proving you are the first one to come up with that one. Now, in terms of what I just said, also rights of the performer, you must also know there are certain rights that you can't sign away in Kenya. That is called moral rights. Kenya is one of the countries that does not permit you to sign away your moral rights. Certain rights like distortion, being used in a purpose completely opposite. Maybe June composed a gospel song, then some DJs mixed it to some other place, which is really there. You know what they are doing there, then it's totally different. She can actually just sue because her moral rights have been offended. Okay? I don't know whether maybe she can claim, I can claim I love you and get copyrighted, but that one I think is debatable. However, I think you're free to use the statement as a Creative Commons one. Finally, I just want to say that all these things must be ways of increasing your litigation success chances. Think of them of how you can increase your revenue, how you can have a bigger impact on the market, and in the worst case scenario, you can actually have more ammo, fight your characters you are creating. Point of yet another. Wakanda is not yet another. Mickey Mouse is not yet another. The guy, the local one, we said is Kodu. Makmende is not local any other. So it's a creativity which must be matched with all the others. Thank you, moderator.
I'm forced to bring this to a screeching halt. You have something. Okay.
Maybe just to answer your question. So the answer is that it depends. Unfortunately, it is possible for them to get permission. I believe there were conversations around similar things with people like Nyambane, for example. Yeah. And it's a conversation about after the relationship. When the relationship is still good, and still live, then you could argue that it helps to bring more visibility to the series that I am still a part of, right? But I find in my experience that when the relationship is broken, seeking to commercially benefit from something that was quote unquote owned by your former employer becomes a bit of a challenge unless a conversation happens, and maybe some revenue share conversation is really what it would be. Because if it's still helping to push back eyeballs to the show and to reruns and things like that, then fine. So it really just depends. I know of incidences where it's been acrimonious and they've been told you can absolutely not. And then it's a bit of an arrogant position, in my opinion, for the producers to take, because even when you try and recreate the character or the behavior of that person, you don't quite get it. But then they could argue back that James Bond, which our moderator used, has had Sean Connery, has had Pierce Brosnan, has had so many other actors, but the character remains. Yeah. So I think in Kenya we're still quite young in those sort of issues. But I would be interested to see who else could play Will Broder to the Will Broder level that we know, so that we get to our James Bond. It will be interesting when we become a bit more mature in our practice. Yeah.
I want to summarize by this. In 2016, one sunny day, I'm at the office, I'm smoking weed. No, I don't smoke weed. and a guy calls me. And he says, Blacks, Company X has commissioned me to do a 13-episode series. And they have said they want to pay me Y. And then this guy asks, Blacks, what do you think? And I'm like, man, si ukamo ofisi. So he comes, and then he tells me, by the way, this is what this company wants to do. They have commissioned me for this, and they want to pay me X. The X they wanted to pay him was 8 mil for the entire 13 episodes. So I asked him, why? How does that happen? I was playing ignorant. It helps when you play ignorant. Watu kuambia kila kitu alafu sasa unaanza kuambia. And nikamwambia, no, that is not the way it is. Because largely most of us, we get exploited out of our lack of knowing. We get exploited out of our ignorance. And people will support to put a best practice largely out of your... So nikamwambia, we spent like an hour with him. He was supposed to have another meeting the following week. So he calls me on Tuesday at around 9, and he tells me, Blacks, man, sijui nini ulidu yani. Ati what's up? Imagine they have revised it from what they had said, 8 to 38 mil. And he tells me, Blacks, let me just stall a little longer. Wakiwika 40, me I'll give them. So, awareness grows value. Awareness adds your capacity to bargain. Awareness builds much larger room even for you to engage with. I had mentioned something that, can we value scripts? I mentioned that, right? How is it that when a company is going about developing an application, a company can actually say the value of this application is X? What's the difference between putting together a script for an application and putting together a script? Because the script for application is just codes. Cynthia. And then we say at the tail end of this coding, it's worth X. What's the difference between putting together a story? That's the same variables. What are the drivers that add value in a script? Are we aware of the particular drivers in a script that currently exist? That most of us, we have never quite appreciated, like June had mentioned, that the title of your script, do we know your title attracts its own value? Do we know that every name, every character name that you come across is supposed to generate value? Do you know that dialogue itself is supposed to be equated. That are some of the best practices out there. Something that if they are doing it, why aren't we doing it? One, could we not have understood the different variables? And that's why I had mentioned earlier that when it comes to valuing, nani hapa amefanya economics? Umefanya economics? You, pardon? Ulifanya? Nile high school? Campus? You know, they talk about economies of scale. Do we have economies? They are there. The mere fact that we have never explored economies of scale in script, when a company wants to put together a product, they will look at different aspects. Do we ever look at scripts in the same dimension? I'm not talking about something that if you're in, like, you're chilling, like, this guy must be high, you know. There is a way we can reinforce the different aspects of our scripts to create value. I like what Alexa said. When we are approaching intellectual property, we are not approaching intellectual property from the aspect of one day I want to end up in court. Okay, if it comes to that, then you're secure. But we are approaching intellectual property that, can intellectual property be an enabler in my business? Can I add intellectual property as part of my business model? Sawa. Nashukuru sana for your time. I want to appreciate very much my panel. But let me finish with this story. How many of us here live in rented houses? You live in a rented house, eh? Okay. And who owns that house? When someone comes to your door, unasema, it's my house. If you don't pay rent, the agent atakuevict. When the county government wants to barabara kupita hapo, watasema there is something called the doctrine of eminent domain. Ya kwamba hii was ours. Hata wakati tulikudanganya tumekupatia, ilikuwa yetu. And then watapatia nani that nini notice? Is it the agent? Huh? The proprietor, the owner, sindio? Okay. The national government equally, ikitaka kufanya kitu, ita go through. So at the end of the day, who owns that house? Who owns that house? Because you enjoy that house to the extent of a fee you pay. Sindio? The owner of the house, as long as analipa land rates to the county government, and own that house. In the same way, intellectual property operates. That you can have a script, and this script can have multiple layers of ownership. You can have a character, and that character can have multiple layers of ownership. You can have a song, an album. My first degree is music. I've been producing music for the past 24 years. You come across an album, that album equals multiple layers of ownership. It is high time, if we want to unlock the entrepreneurial aspects of the creative industries, then it will pay. That as an individual, can I get sensitization to empower me even as I go over across my career? Even as I go over my career, can I get awareness that will empower me to make informed decisions? The worst thing that we come across on a day-to-day is a talented person who is exploited out of their ignorance. Thank you very much. Kuna mtu anataka a parting shot? Oh, that is my parting shot. Alex is very good at talking. Yeah? And I want to appreciate everyone. Please, kindly, let's give it up to my lovely panel. And we may take our exit. We may take our exit. Tomorrow, even before we go, tomorrow we'll be handling a session. How we can use intellectual property for collateral. How we can use intellectual property for? How is it that no bank funds a script? I've been in music. They don't even fund your video. How is it? But how is it that if I approach a bank with a title deed, they will fund me? What do people in the real estate have that us people in the creative industries appear not to have? So I would seriously wish tomorrow we interact again at 12:30 to 1:30. Please diarize it tomorrow. And then I will touch that Joyce's question. Joyce, that question of how can we value. Tomorrow I will walk you through the stages, how we can create drivers in generating value. Thank you very much to my well... And there's a photography in here. Sijui kama DJ anaweza kiweka ngoma because umeka?
Where here?
Direct from